I want to consult the leader. As a young person in China, domestic roles are no longer available. I want to develop in Vietnam and have a look at Vietnam. The latest news. For example, some major electronics manufacturers have moved to Vietnam. Nvidia has also established an AI Vietnam center. Please tell Mr. Wang about Vietnam. You think that makes sense? If you are a boy, you go to Vietnam. Hurry up and find a Vietnamese girl. This is the best. That means you are going to Vietnam. You must marry a Vietnamese woman. Marry a Vietnamese wife. If you don't have this ability, or you are married, can't be separated anymore, then don't go. Because after all, Vietnam is not a developed country with the rule of law. It is xenophobic. But it's different if you marry them once and for all. Because there are many overseas Chinese in Vietnam. He doesn't care about Chinese ancestry, but he is very concerned about your identity. So you just need to work together with the Vietnamese and the Japanese. This will be fine. It's just that place, a very good place. It's the Yangtze River Delta in the future. Vietnam is a long and narrow country. Everyone thinks Vietnam is a bit like England, or a bit like Japan. It is a long country. Very long from north to south. Things are very narrow. Therefore, such geographical conditions make the country of Vietnam naturally divided into two poles, north and south. The Vietnamese in the north are more like China. This is monogamy in Vietnam. I mean, if he is unmarried, of course he can go to Vietnam and get a wife. This is because there are many women in Vietnam. And the Vietnamese wife is very nice. I work hard to soak my husband's feet in water. Soak my husband's feet in water every night. Adjust the temperature. Husband brings it over. Husband, you wash your feet. Fuck you, this is what you call a man. I have a brother here who married a Japanese, Vietnamese wife. He is from Shanghai. He used to marry a Shanghai starlet. His third tier 1 is not as good as a starlet. He also took away all his property. It's all gone to him. Then, we have sex as a couple at night. That little star still wants to keep the Shanghai woman for him. Shanghai men are just like that. Shanghai women say that Shanghai men are so good. It's because you performed well today. I'll let you get out of bed. If you don't perform well, I'm not happy anymore. You can't touch me. The married life that lasted for many years. And then they got divorced. Later divorced. That little star went back to Shanghai. When he was in Vancouver, he married a Vietnamese girl who was of Vietnamese and French descent. Oops. It's awesome to be 29. Give him lukewarm medicine every day. I've done all the work at home. He also gave birth to an eldest son. Then, warm his bed every night. I said all this brother made me cry. Speaking of which, for me, I was originally in Shanghai. The way I live is like a person and a man. What am I like? I arrived and married a Vietnamese wife. I just know what a man should be like. Laku is really just drinking some wine. I really cried too. This is why you go to Vietnam. It's because of you that you want to integrate into Vietnam. Only then can you share the results of his reform and opening up. Otherwise, where are you just going to work? No meaning. Well, the folk customs in northern and southern Vietnam are completely different. So what about when you choose a direction? What about when you choose a goal? You have to think about it. Well, Vietnam has a tale of two cities. Like Beijing, Shanghai, well, Paris, London. This kind of tale of two cities. Vietnam is Ho Chi Minh, Saigon, and Pharaoh. Start talking nonsense. You're not talking nonsense. I really didn't lie to you about the daughter-in-law I just mentioned. Lie to you. I'm not the real person with the character herringbone. Then I won't mention that person. I know a lot of people in Vancouver. That city in northern Vietnam is called Hanoi. Is its capital? The city in the south is called Ho Chi Minh City. It's Saigon. These are two completely different cities. Hanoi is more like Guangzhou, China, or China, Beijing. Northern Vietnam looks more like China. You can definitely think of it as coming from Hanoi. That is, northern Vietnam is more like Chinese culture. In southern Vietnam, it is close to the Nam Dao district. Saigon is more like a Catholic country. Because Vietnam is from the south. Vietnamese Catholicism is very powerful. Catholicism was a major religion in its southern French colonies. Therefore, Vietnamese Catholicism is the mainstream in the south. Moreover, the ethnic mixture in the southern region of Vietnam is very complex. The Vietnamese in the south and the Vietnamese in the north are equally hardworking and brave. After all, he is very similar to the Chinese. They are all very hardworking and brave. Very willing to work too. Very willing to make money. The Vietnamese in the south are more open-minded and civilized. And other Catholic countries. The Vietnamese in the north are more disciplined. More about class. Well. So if you, for example, if I were a young man, I want to choose the target in Vietnam. I would choose Ho Chi Minh to go to. I will go. Because I prefer Shanghai. I don't like Beijing. If you let me choose from scratch, I think Shanghai is more humane. Ho Chi Minh is also more humane. This is my Vietnamese river noodles, which are more delicious than Ho Chi pancakes. Okay. Anyway, this is the lake city. To us in China, it's all in the south. All hot. Well. But in terms of climate, maybe Nishinamiya is better too. I don't know much about Vietnam. I have some friends here who married Vietnamese wives. I have 2 friends. An entrepreneur friend married a Vietnamese daughter-in-law here. Of course, their Vietnamese wives are actually from Vietnam, so they all introduced each other. Because Vietnam has a characteristic. Vietnamese people have a characteristic. Vietnamese people are extremely united. Even the Vietnamese in Vancouver almost all know each other. Vietnamese. As soon as they arrive at the weekend, there are gatherings in the Vietnamese community and the Catholic Church in Vietnam. So they all have more than a dozen people in each family. A dozen or so people participating in hundreds, thousands, or thousands of people are the Vietnamese community. This is not available in the Chinese community. So Vietnam is amazing.